The Rick and Shauna Show, baby. Oh yeah. Smart moves, smart doors. That's the way to go. For every rental dream, they help the numbers flow. Before you buy, after you close, they help you know. Welcome to the Rick and Shauna Show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Rick and Shauna Show. Today we have a very special guest, Bob McAfee with our own property management company, Icon Property Management. We are going to be going over rent readies and the things that happen behind the scenes. Thanks for being on the show, Bob. We appreciate you coming on.
Why don't you give us kind of give us a little bit of your background, kind of what you do here, just so people kind of get a good understanding of what your job is here.
So I guess my job is to make sure all the rent readies are done the right way, to make sure we can save the owner as much money as possible with coming out with a good result. I got 27 years experience in construction, build houses from the ground up. I'm very good at almost any task. So I just kind of keep a close eye. I make sure the teams are doing their jobs right. I make sure we're staying on timeline, being 21 business days or 14, to make sure we don't go over that. I try to minimize all the add-ons so that way I can see everything and try not to have any add-ons. But we do have add-ons from time to time because some things you just didn't see.
Okay, so you do obviously put the bid together.
I put the bid together.
So you go out, you walk the property, put the bid together, then you get that bid over to the owner, correct?
Correct. Okay. And then I'll talk with the owner. If he wants to minimize that bid, if he wants to maybe not do the entire scope of the work, then I will work with the owner to bring it down to make sure that the house is always clean, safe, and functional for our tenants, and there's no safety risk.
So take us through your process then. Like once we know a property is vacant, you step in.
So usually I'll go through the property. Once I'm launched, I go to the property. I check all windows. I make sure there's the outlets are working most of the time, or I'll note it. I also do a report. That report, I take pictures of the room, pictures of the damages, and that's how I build my estimate from it. Not only is the hands-on, but the pictures help me reference back to where I was at so that I can write an accurate estimate upon that.
Okay. And then I think also, even for owners, like we have many owners that do their own turns. They may have their own crew, their own people. So one of the things that you do as well is you do walk those properties.
Correct.
Also. So just kind of give us a little bit of background on the importance of that. Like, why is that important to walk those properties and make sure that...
So it's really important because a lot of owners, they want to hire the cheapest contractor out there. Mm-hmm. They want to try to save every dollar they can, and I do understand that. However, most of these contractors that you're hiring is just going in, they're throwing it together, they're getting paid, and they're leaving. Mm-hmm. They are not really fixing the problems, they're Band-Aiding.
Right.
So as you know, with a lot of properties, if you keep Band-Aiding something, sooner or later it's going to be a big problem. So you might as well fix it right the first time. And 90% of your cheap contractors are not going to go back. They already got paid. They're done. They're gone.
Down the road.
They're down the road.
Yeah, and I think that's the important piece, is because I think with an owner, when they pay to have a property done, first of all, it's expensive to have them done, and they feel that, like, hey, my contractor said it's good to go. They think they're done with this process.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then, unfortunately, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, you go in and we have to be the bearer of bad, or you have to be the bearer of bad news, that, hey, there's a punch list that needs to be done. And of course, that punch list could be anywhere from, $500 all the way up to $5,000. Depending on what was left there. So I guess the moral of that story is that a lot of times that I think that, to your point, owners can go out and they can find inexpensive people to do, inexpensive bids to do the turns. But ultimately with those usually comes some challenges or problems. Could.
Right. You don't get the warranty. A lot of these these contractors, these cheap guys, they're not standing behind their work. But with Icon, you know, we do stand behind our work. We do give the warranties. If we did something and we did that turn and you find something on that list, because even if our guys do it, I still check it. And if I find something on that list, I send our guys back, and that's at no cost to the owner. You know, now if it's something that was an add-on that they have to do and they didn't touch, I will reach out to the owner and let them know, hey, this absolutely needs done. It's going to cost you this much. And most of the time we do a time and material with that. So it saves the owner some money. But, you know, with these contractors, they don't pay attention to detail. They don't pay attention to, they don't treat it like it's their home.
Well, and we're going to have to manage it, right? So I guess that's the key part, is we're going to have to manage it. So if we're doing that work and we have to manage it, we're going to have to answer for it.
Correct.
So we're not just going to be down the road. And just so everybody understands, there are a lot of good contractors out there.
There are.
So it's not that, you know, we're trying to like come down on contractors, but if it's a very inexpensive contractor and they're way below what a standard bid would be, there's a reason. There's a reason you can't come in to do the same quality of work and be that far under, let's say, your bid.
Correct.
You know, so there's more than likely where there's smoke, there's fire, right? There's something.
They're trying to cut corners. They give you a low bid, but within that low bid, they got to cut corners to make any money.
It's the only way they can do it, right?
Right. And those corners that they cut, that could be a safety risk. That could be, you know, I'm just saying that could cause you problems in the long run. So it's better if you got a property management company and they have their own construction people. I mean, if you trust them to manage your property, why not trust them to do your work?
Great point.
I mean, that's got to be a main thing, you know. You're opening your wallet to them, no doubt. You know, you're depending on them to put money in that wallet. But they can't do that if they got to follow a contractor that's actually not doing his due diligence.
Yeah.
Well, there's just no accountability, you know, especially for our out-of-state property owners, you know, and even when we're already in place and we've provided them with a bid, and then they do go out and they're like, well, you know, so-and-so is going to do it. I found this contractor. 9 times out of 10, and I want to say 10 out of 10, it
probably
comes back that when we do walk the property after their contractor is done, and we've run into this situation probably 5 times just in the last couple weeks, where we go out and there's stuff left behind, or they've given you pictures. You know, a lot of times they're like, well, how could that be? They sent me pictures. Well, they're only giving you pictures of the good side, of the good things that are done. You know, there's a disaster going on behind them, and it's unfortunate that, you know, we have dealt with lots of contractors that have done that because they don't have to continue that relationship. We're looking for a lasting relationship,
You get to walk away.
Right. You get to walk away, and you don't have to answer your phone, and then there's no accountability for you. You just go on to the next job. And, you know, these are out-of-state investors. They're not talking to each other per se, to where somebody's going to find out that this contractor doesn't do the right thing.
And they can't see it, to your point.
Exactly. They're just not being provided with the right things. And, you know, and on the other hand with us, I know that sometimes we give a bid that's higher, right?
Right.
But if you go with the cheaper contractor and it's not done right anyways, and we still can't put it on the market, you're paying the same amount of money or more, right?
Right.
I mean,
And
because,
time.
Yeah, and time. Yes, time off market means another month that it's not rented. And, you know, as far as that goes to, like, you know, I feel like a lot of these contractors, though, don't have accountability, only look at the surface stuff. They really don't dive in. And we do. We dive into this stuff. So when we do have that bid, you talked about add-ons. Go into a little bit of what we call them change order add-ons. But
So it would basically be, okay, we gave you a bid, you know, say that bid was $5,000. We get into the house, we realize, okay, now we need an electrician. The electrical isn't up. Or we need a plumber, the stack is leaking. These are things you don't see when you give a bid. When I go into a home, most of the time it's because it's vacant, they've been evicted, or they've just up and left. And the water's not on, the power's not on, so we're fighting all these obstacles to get through. And you don't realize, you know, I'm trying to get you back on the market as fast as possible.
Right.
I don't want you to lose 3 months rent because you're trying to figure out, do I want to take the bid? Do I not want to take the bid? Do I want to find somebody cheaper? Well, if you find somebody at 4,000 and our bid was 5,000 and that person takes 3 months versus us taking 3 weeks, you actually might as well, you'd have been cheaper to go ahead and pay the $5,000 and have the
Right.
place done.
Right. And that's not even counting the stuff that's not even done right. So the work that was done isn't even done right. You may have to go in and tear it out.
Right.
So one of the other things that I was thinking about, Shauna made me think of it, is a whole nother facet of this is Section 8. And, a lot of these investors that are coming in from, out of state, they get excited about Section 8 because of the amount of rent that they see that can be paid. That's a whole nother podcast that we're going to do talking
is.
about the Section 8, but
That's a
there's a
big
lot,
one.
there's a lot to go to talk about there. But one of the things is that the idea when you go in and you give those bids, you're also looking for those things. It's not just get it rent ready. Yeah, get it rent ready, but there's many things that Section 8 is looking for that somebody else might not pay attention to. Peeling paint is a huge one.
Yeah.
Inside, windows and stuff like that, looking for those things because the house could look outstanding. I mean, we just had one. We just had one where the houses look really good, but then when you kind of dive into it, and the house looked great. It was a nice job, but there was a pretty good list of things that needed to be done at that house still, and that becomes like a shock to the landlord. Says, I bought it rent ready,
Yeah.
Right.
and sometimes that's what will happen is. So the other part of that is making sure that because we do a fair amount of Section 8. And we have to make sure that, when we do get them right, we want to make sure that it's going to cover those too.
Right. Yeah, because you want that to pass that inspection right away. You don't want to have to go back to it. I've been to 2 houses in the past 2 weeks that had their own contractor do the work, and even met one of the contractors at the house. And when I got there, the house didn't look bad, but the doors wouldn't shut. And the contractor, I had pointed it out, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't get paid to do that." And then I look at the front door, and they got pieces of metal holding the front door together that you have to fight to get shut. And his words were, "Yeah, well, I did the bid for this. Doesn't really cover that. I did the best I could."
To that point, your add-ons.
Yeah,
when
your
when you look at that stuff, because when you get in, you may, like when you dive into a project at first glance, you may not see it all because you haven't actually started the project yet. But once you start the project, then things start to open up.
Right.
And you start to see these things.
100%. You really don't see, unless you're physically there. It's like Shauna said, a picture can show you whatever you want. You can shoot 3 walls and go to the next room and shoot 1 wall. And like she said, behind you, you're not seeing. So, those other walls could be crumbling, falling, cracked, not painted properly. There's a lot that goes into it.
I think it's important to point out too, as a property management company, you had said it in the beginning, you're going in and you're looking, at the progress. You're stopping by these properties when we're doing the job. It's important for, property owners to know if you do, even if you are under management, if you do choose your own contractor, number one, make sure the bid is apples to apples. And I think that's a lot of times not the case, like you just said with that. But more importantly, we're not checking your contractors in between. So there's no one checking them. Right. We don't find it until the project is, quote unquote, done. And again, you've probably paid that contractor and he's out the door onto the next one, and we're just finding it. And unfortunately, I think sometimes it makes us be the bad guy because we have to give that bad news to the property owner, like, sorry, but we gave you a bid and these things are on it. These things didn't even get done. Maybe you paid $1,000 less, right? But now we're adding all these things and he didn't finish the original job.
Right.
I mean, there's so many different things that you can run into by going outside of your property management company if you're using another contractor, just if you think you're saving a couple bucks. Honestly, I can tell you, and I know you'll verify, I don't think that's ever happened.
No, I think in the long run you'd lose because I just want to say you might have saved $1,000 on the bid, but now you lost 2 months because once we come in and we point everything out, now you got to think about it. Now you're trying to get a hold of the contractor. He isn't answering because he's gone. He already got paid. So now you lost 2 more months of revenue which you would have paid the extra $1,000, it would have been done.
Right.
And now you're out $3,000.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, by the end of the day, you're losing your rent, you're losing, you know, your, how do I want to say, you're
Your
basically,
profit. You're losing
your profit is
and
gone.
Your portfolio that's, you know, on that particular property now, or maybe all of it is tanking. It depends on how much money you have to work with at the end of the day. And to your point with Section 8, a lot of these contractors, these, you know, I don't want to call them fly by night because maybe they do know what they're doing, but they're just not doing justice for the property owner. We do inspection, like when we do the walkthrough, you're looking for those kind of things. So that's already on our bid. And maybe it's not on there. So if you do choose to go Section 8, now you get a whole nother list and we're 3 months down the road. You know, so there's all of these different things that unfortunately, you know, can go wrong for a property owner when you just don't trust your property management company.
Yeah, and I think most of the time your contractors, they're there to fix that door, paint those walls, patch. They don't know the codes. They don't know.
And that's the other thing.
That's a big part of it. You know, we study our codes. We know what Section 8 is going to do. We know if the city's going to call you out because of something. We go above and beyond, you know, just.
We have to.
Yeah.
Because compliance is the other part of this.
Yeah, and even
right?
as good as we are, as good as we can possibly be, there's still Section 8 will come in and they'll find something still.
Yes,
but I will
always.
tell you, if they do find something, it's usually minor. It's like a smoke detector
Yeah.
or a hand railing or something very minor. It's not
be-
like there's not this hit list that's, you know, $2,000. And how many times have we seen that happen?
Oh, a lot.
Contractor comes in, we find a Section 8 applicant, we start the process, and then the list of things that needs to be done is long.
Right.
And it gets expensive. And then all of a sudden the owner did not prepare for that.
Yeah.
And I totally get why they didn't.
Yeah.
Because they think, hey, I already did that.
Right.
I already allotted that money for that.
They put a lot of, they depend a lot on someone that they truly, not all contractors, but some of them that go for the cheaper bids, they depend a lot on that person to give them exactly what they're paying for. And that person, you know, he's just there to make it up.
They got the blinders on too. They're just going to do, it's like, hey, this is what my bid says.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. I know that's a problem, but you know what? That's not what I get paid to do. I got paid to do this.
Correct.
And it's one of those things, that's the nice thing about what you do. It's like, yeah, you've got a bid that says $5,000, but while we were out here, we're also paying attention. Hey, there's 2 other things we came across. This is going to be a problem for you. Do you want to get these things done?
Yeah, and sometimes if the guys are out there and that outlet wasn't on the bid, but they notice it, they just change it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or we're not going to hit you with every nickel and dime. We're just not going to do that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that for just a second. So when a bid is done, okay, and an owner says, wow, man, that seems a little high. So what's that process look like when an owner kind of pushes back a little bit on a bid?
So I always like to have a phone conversation with the owner and have him pull up my report as I pull up my report. And we go room for room, wall for wall. Anything he needs to know about that property, I usually document it. And I can tell him, we can walk from room to room and I can tell him why he needs to fix it. And I can tell him, okay, well, this could slow down somebody wanting to move in here. You know, that carpet was clean, but that carpet's 13 years old and it looks poor, you know? So even though it's clean, smells good, what's the first thing a tenant does? They walk in, they look around, they want to make it home. They can't make something home that's got stains on the floor, the trim's not connected right, the doors are not closing, the windows aren't functioning. From a look of a picture, it all looks fine.
Right.
But once you get into the mechanicals and you start digging in, you realize, well, that door, yeah, it's painted beautifully, but it doesn't shut, or that window doesn't stay up, and those are the things that Section 8 is looking at.
Yeah, and that's the importance of us walking the property because it's coming one way or another. We're either going to tell you and get it done before a tenant moves in and give the tenant a really good experience, or the tenant's going to tell us after they move in.
And then they're not so nice about it.
Then they're not so
right?
nice about it.
And we've gone back and forth with this about walking properties that where a property owner has hired their own contractor because they've gotten so, frustrated with us about that having to happen. But never, not once, has it not, paid off that we've walked it before we've moved a tenant in, and we have found things, again, that your contractor hasn't done. And,
Right.
you know, it's just, there's so many reasons to why we do what we do. We've been doing this for a very long time. And trust me, we talk about it all the time, don't we?
We do, all
we
the
go back
time.
and forth all the time.
And one of the main things is, you know, I get you want to try to find the cheapest contractor and try to get the best job. But at the end of the day, if you really put it all together, if it doesn't get done and we have to send maintenance in once the tenant's in, that costs you more money.
Yes.
It honestly, it does. If that guy spends for every hour he's there, you're getting billed. Versus, you know, if it takes us an extra hour, we just get it done.
And it costs, you know, and it costs the reputation too. You think about it
does.
costs the reputation of Icon because, you know, we stand behind our properties and, you know, we want to make sure that somebody has the best experience. And it actually, it's a reputation of an owner too, because let's face it, we have a lot of savvy tenants.
We do.
They can get on an owner's website and see who owns the property.
Right.
And people
know-
are demanding a lot more today than they used
Absolutely.
to.
Absolutely.
You know, they want to see where their money's going. They want to know that if I'm paying $900 to $1,000 a month, I want my house to function.
Which,
You know,
rightfully so, right? Yeah,
Fair.
no matter what you're paying, honestly.
Yeah.
It's just, it does save a lot of headache for everyone involved if it's done before a tenant moves in. We want a tenant to be happy. You have a happy tenant, you have a longer lasting tenant. And they're going to be in there. Now, if they move in and they've got issues right off the bat, doesn't set the tone well for us, and the tenant will likely always push hard to get something done because they feel like that experience from the beginning, you know, we kind of don't care.
Right.
You know,
Well, what's the other side of that though? So a tenant moves in, right? And they're a tenant that sees, oh, this is how they take care of it.
Yep.
They have no reason to do anything any different. They're like, hey, I got into a place that was not great, didn't look good, none of the stuff works. What am I worried about taking care of it? But I will tell you, when somebody moves into a property and it looks good, looks really solid, and it's not always the case, but your chances of having that tenant be actually proud of the home they live in. So when they have people come, oh, I checked my new place out.
Yeah.
It's really nice. And they feel good about that. But if they move into something that's not great, a tendency is it's probably not going to take great care of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. You see it. I'm sure we see it all the time. You know, some people just, we bring on properties that they didn't take care of. And now that property just, it looks horrible. They didn't put no money into it. They didn't try to fix it. So it's back to your word, you know, they are not going to take care of something.
Yeah. And it slows the whole process when you think about it. You talked about it a little bit, but you know, what's the biggest, from me and Shauna's point, once we take over, you know, our job is to get that place rented as quickly as possible. The better that place looks, the faster it's going to rent. We know right away. Like we see a property, we're like, man, this thing's going to go pretty quick.
Yeah.
Or could be the
Not
opposite.
so much. Yeah.
It
yeah.
could be like, oh boy, I don't know, man, this might be a challenge.
Yep.
And the outside's just as important as the inside.
Great point.
You know, if you come up to a house, it could be beautiful inside, but if it looks like crap outside, less likely. People are just, you know, the first impression they're going to get is the outside, oh, it looks horrible.
Or they just drive by
I was
the
going to
place.
say it'll affect the leasing because you got to get them inside to see the beauty.
Right.
But if it looks crappy on the outside, they're not. You know,
They'll just
they're not
drive by.
even going to even show up. Right.
Yeah, I've actually had people do that. I've actually
Yeah.
been at the property and I've
see 'em
watched
drive
people
by?
just drive by and they don't even come in.
They're like,
because
"Nope."
they're like, seen enough.
Yeah.
Seen enough.
So it makes everybody's job easier. You know, I mean, by going with Icon, you're going with a trusted company that is going to make sure it's right. You know, and by listening to our leasing agents, to you guys, to the people, make it look nice. It's going to get that person in there. Your place isn't going to go vacant. The more you take care of it and the nicer you make the house, the longer they're going to stay.
Well, and it's your investment. We kind of really didn't talk that much about that, but it's your investment. These
100%.
things that are that need to be done on the property, there are certain things, absolutely. There's some cosmetic things that you can kind of like the nail holes and stuff like that. And that's not a huge deal. But there are certain things that are going to continue to deteriorate the property. So you think about like, you know, water challenges or maybe roof problems. And maybe they're not horrible, but maybe they're starting to be a problem. And I know you do a great job of pointing those all things out because it's coming. It's coming. I mean, it's going to come eventually. So this is your investment. You know, so, you know, and I get it. It's a fine line. It's a fine line.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to go broke trying to keep somebody else in a house when you plan on it being your investment. However, if you treat the house nice, the tenant stays, and long term, your money's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really ever pay to just put a Band-Aid on it and move on. Deferred maintenance is going to cost you so much more than, just handling it right the first time. And no, we're not over here trying to spend your money, but we are trying to make sure that we protect your investment. And it is one of the biggest reasons you have property management. Let us do our job.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
Let us do our job.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else that you feel like we need to talk about today? Anything that we kind of missed?
I would say, like you said, roofs and foundations are very important. If you have water coming in on your foundation, yeah, sure, you can try to overlook it. Maybe the rest of the house is perfect, but the basement keeps getting wet. Well, that moisture builds up in the basement. And what happens? Then we start having floor joist problems. We start having flooring lift. We start having
Mold.
chance for mold.
Yeah.
So the basements are very important too. I mean, you can't just do the upstairs and not the downstairs.
Well, yeah,
basically.
and actually, we talk about this all the time. Sometimes when people come in, they beeline to the basement. It's amazing. I'm always
They
like,
do.
well, you got to go to the basement?
Yeah.
It's like
Right, because
to
a
the
lot of
basement.
them are looking at that basement to see, okay, well, if the basement
Is well maintained.
deteriorating and
Or-
falling apart,
Yeah.
then we know the rest of the house has just got a Band-Aid on it. So
Yeah.
we're going to get out of there.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important. I mean, we want to keep happy tenants. The happier the tenant, the longer they stay. And that's
right.
what you want at the end of the day. You don't want a million turns. And the owners, you always got to account for a turn, but you don't want to do 6 turns in a year. So I would
No, that's a
much
loser.
rather. Yeah.
That's a li-
That's a lot of turns in a year.
I would much rather just see you go in, fix the house the right way. Trust Icon. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, okay, so final takeaways. So we are completing the task on time, right? We're going out, we're giving a bid, we're agreeing on a price,
Correct.
we're approving it as long as they get their money in, right? So that's another big piece, I think, before we actually do those final takeaways. We didn't talk about the time frame of getting in like the queue, so to speak, right? They have to provide the funds to do the rehab.
Yep.
And if they wait and they sit on it, whether they're shopping around or they just don't have it or they're trying to figure out whether they want to do it or not, the longer they wait, they're not getting put in a line anywhere until
Correct.
those funds are received, right?
Correct.
So that could prolong it as well. So, yes, we require all the funds up front. And the reason we do that is because it takes a certain amount of time for them to clear. And we could be using third-party vendors. They need paid right away. We
Correct.
don't want to hold that off because then they won't work with us. I think that a lot of people understand
And
that.
you can always see the funds. Now, it's a lot
Absolutely.
different.
Yeah.
If you hire your local contractor that you hand him the money,
Yep.
you don't have accountability for that money.
Absolutely.
See where that goes. Yeah.
Well, we can't go. Well, here we are. This
Yeah.
is brick and mortar.
Yes.
We're here.
Yeah.
It's like we're not going to run. It's like so.
Well, and they have
it's
their
here.
owner portal. They can follow
Right.
it.
And they
see
can
it.
follow
Yeah.
the money. I mean, the money's
Yeah.
there. We take half up front. The other half you can see, and it says on the final stage, we will pull the other half.
Mm-hmm.
So when they pull the other half, if you haven't received an update, which 99% of the time you do, unless it's a small job and it happens super fast, you're always going to get an update.
Mm-hmm.
You can always call me at any time. Hey, how's the property going? Is there any issues? I will always reach out, after the first week, I'll let you know, hey, we're on schedule, you're going to be done soon, but you can watch the money, and that's the main part. You can't watch the money with your
You sure
other
can.
people.
Well, you can
yeah,
watch
and-
it.
Yeah, watch it
watch it go away.
disappear. Yeah, that's about right.
And we have Kyra who helps out, and she does
does.
give weekly updates, right? So they
Yes.
do hear from her as far as, hey, this is right on target, this is on schedule, or they will hear from her about the change orders. They'll hear from her about progress on the property, or if they run into any issues. So, we're like you said, we're here. You need something, call us. You can follow it on your owner portal. If you have questions, call in. We're here to answer your questions.
And I mean, where we're a little above most of your local contractors
Yeah.
is we have a city code department.
Yeah.
We have a Section 8 department. We have a maintenance department. We have a lawn care department. We we handle everything from start to finish.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that I think that's very important.
It is, and we have a great team, that collectively comes together and handles those things for our property owners. And then you kind of supervise all of that. So you got a lot going on, and you're out in the
do.
field.
I do.
And we appreciate, the fact that you do all of that, and you keep all of that together, and with your demeanor as far as, I know I've said this before, but you always handle property owners so well. I think they really feel good once they get off the phone with talking to you, because you're very, very informative, very knowledgeable. Any question that they've ever asked, you've answered, and you keep a very even tone.
And you're available.
And
I'm
you're
always
available,
available.
which
That's
is
one of the biggest
things.
things, that
Yeah.
communication piece.
Yeah.
That's always where it comes back to,
Yeah.
people getting upset as they feel like they can't communicate or they're not being heard.
Right.
And I know that's definitely not the case with you, because I know you pretty much pick your phone up at all hours. Pretty much
7 days a week.
Every day, all day. Yes.
every day, all day. So, all right. Well, I think that's about where we want to wrap it up, right? Anything else?
No, just making sure. I think the biggest thing is making sure that they get done on time, staying within the budget, and they look good. We're putting out a good product. We're protecting the investment, and at the end of the day, we're getting them leased, and we do it all over again on the next one.
Yep. All right. Well, so we're going to end it there. So don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. That helps us a ton. And we will see you soon here. We do have some coming out here in the next week or so. So you got some stuff coming up.
New episodes drop every Tuesday, so watch for those. Thanks for attending. We love that you guys are coming back every week and watching.